Welcome to part 2 of this special edition of the FOGS Queenslander podcast, where we're looking back at the 1995 series where Paul Walton's Neville Nobodies wrote their names into Origin folklore with a stunning series clean sweep. We're joined by Captain Trevor Gillmeister, Billy Moore and Ben Ikin. Well, welcome back to part 2 of our special FOGS Queenslander podcast, where we're reminiscing with three of the players from the 95 series, Captain Trevor Gillmeister, Billy Moore and Ben Ikin. Gentlemen, we're up to game 3, and I want to know, when was there a switch after the celebration of winning the series in game number 2 in Melbourne? When did the focus change to making it a clean sweep, or was it always there?
I'm very sure that Fatty, because of his astute nature and loved to rub salt in the wounds, I think he honed in very quickly that it was actually going to be the 4th time in history that a Queen's sweep had happened. And this was a side that was ridiculed. And I'll be fair, there was some Queensland press that weren't very keen on us taking the Queensland jersey into that series when you go back before game 1, because there was no Broncos players in the team other than Jed. Yeah. So we were ostracised a fair bit, and that, in a sense, brought us together closer as a group. So I'm sure actually game 3, first camp, Fatty made mention of the fact that this is a chance for immortality to win 3-0, which we thought, well, do we still get to do the bonding session?
And well, the other thing he zeroed in on was celebrating with your fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, with our crowd, with our people. So it's pointless if you come back and you lose with the people that you've been playing for. So if you really want to make Queensland proud, come home and win this third game. And somewhere along the way, remember we saw someone picked up in a video that Honey had celebrated a try or something at some point, one of the first 2 games. And so everyone's going wild. And in the middle of it all, this wild celebration, there's vision of Mark Hone celebrating, and all he does is the hands go up to about here and then they come back down, and that's it.
Was he on the bench?
I don't know. I can't remember where the footage was. Anyway, so the commitment was made that if we won the 3rd game, when we won the 3rd game, we were all going to stand on the field and do a honey.
We had the red wigs?
We had red wigs. Yeah, they gave us out red wigs. So,
but that was during the week too, wasn't it? And we
did a promo.
And then we all said there's 18 fatties running around. We supposedly were his children. So.
The other thing, I look back on the whole series as one of the great moments or great things that live with me forever, was, as you just said, about celebrating with the fans. So we win the game, and Lang Park, I think back then, held, 40,000, 45, something like that. Basically, some of the crowd had cleared, but there would have been 30,000, I reckon, still remained, and they celebrated with us. And it was the longest, slowest lap and celebration. We did a few honies and the red wig. I reckon we were on the field over an hour, and they didn't go anywhere. And you realised this was a team for the people. Yeah.
No, you're right, especially over in that left-hand corner. You know, mate, the northern eastern corner, obviously the pig pen area and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember, they actually pulled down the fence. And we were going, hey, just relax. Someone's going to get hurt here. Remember that?
That's it.
So. I had that moment. I scored a try in the 3rd game, and we go back for kickoff after I'd scored, and being 18 and thinking a bit differently from the others potentially, I got back and I had this moment in the southwest corner getting ready for the kickoff where the crowd stood up and started chanting for me and cheering for me, and I'm like, it's overwhelming. But in that moment, the only thing I could think about was, I cannot wait to get to Friday's nightclub. This is going to be so good.
Free drink.
Oh, it was going to be something.
Well, Billy, how close were you to not playing?
Well, I did my ribs in the back end of that game, and then the Bears went to Perth. And I went across there, and we went there a couple of times, and this time it was at the Wagga. I wasn't able to play. Came back and then went into camp, and Fatty said, "Well, what do you think?" And the doc, Hickory Dickory Doc, was there.
Yeah.
And
Roy Saunders.
said, "But I said I want to play. I reckon I'm good to go." They said, "Don't worry, we'll give you a medical I'm sure you'll be okay. I said, no worries. So there was all immediate tension, and then we've slipped off and went in the car down here to Lang Park. Fatty, myself, and Roy Saunders. And Roy Saunders and Fatty were on the spectator side of the fence, and I've gone out in the field with Choppy, and I'm thinking, I wonder what's going to happen here, and how does this work? And I'm thinking, well, the doc's there, where's the other medical people? Because there's got the sports science side of accessing my ribs. How are you going to do that? And said to Choppy, so how does this play? And he goes, back up and run at me. And I said, well, what's that going to do? He said, just back up and run at me, and I'm going to tackle you. And I said, so what's the test? He goes, you'll find out.
Yeah.
So I back up and I half-hard. I ran at him half speed, and he stopped me, put the hand up. He goes,
Remember you told me that. Yeah.
don't take a piss here. Get back there and
Try
run
and
as
run
hard as
over
you
me.
can,
Yeah.
because I'm going to smash you. And he said, it's going to be tough. And I said, serious? He goes, yep. Harder you run, the better it's going to be for you. And I said, right. So I remember I ran at him as hard as I could. So I'm not sure how old would Choppy have been then. Maybe early 40s?
Early 40s, yeah.
Anyway, he hit me that well. He picked me up, spear tackled me into the ground, 120 odd kilos where he was then, landed on top of me. And I remember I was winded, and he's got up, he goes, yep, Fatty, he's good to go. I thought there's a sports science for you.
Actually, he would have been mid to late 30s, I'd say.
I was going to say, yeah.
Sorry, Choppy.
Mid 30s.
Are you trying to intimate that he was brave to play in that third game? Because I fear that the next story we're going to hear is going to be quite emasculating for Bill.
Well, we'll move along, and we'll get to your getting out of hospital story when we get to it, Ben. But Gilly, obviously, folklore. In hospital, you weren't going to miss the game, were you?
Oh, I got stood on in Melbourne, and I got a infection in my leg, obviously, and I played for the Crushers on the weekend, and then I thought it was all right. I used the old scrub and brush and clean it out and put a bit of metho on it and stuff like that. And that's a few people told me that was good for it, and didn't work too good. But anyway, I remember, going to see Roy. I said my knee's playing up a bit. It used to blow up anyway, my left knee a bit. And he said, "Oh, you imbecile!" He said, "You got poisoning in your leg." Anyway, so went to the doctors up the hospital for a couple of days, and but that was kind of early in the camp. So and I thought I'll be right. Put me on an antibiotic drip, and I thought I'd be okay. And they brought me out, and later on, and they're all in the room. Tosser, Choppy, Fatty, and the doc, and I was thinking I was going to get ruled out, and I just thinking, this is, shit house because we're going to beat them again. And anyway, and then Fatty said, "What's the issues? What can happen to the doc?" And he said, "Oh, the poison can go throughout his system." He said, "And you can't control it." And he said, and he could die. Worst scenario, he could die. And Choppy being Choppy went, shit, that's no good. He said, but I couldn't think of a better place to die than Lang Park. Anyway, but he's trying to, and we got serious, and I even said to Roy, mate, if you want me to sign something, no dramas, it's on me. You know what I mean? So, because Fatty said, if I had the chance to captain Queensland again, we're going to win again and do a lap of one at Lang Park, the crowd, lifting you blokes up and stuff like that. He said, I'd be doing it. And I said, well, why didn't you say that 2 hours ago? Anyway, and Roy said the only way he's allowed to play is unless we go back to hospital. I spent another couple of days in the hospital, but it was I wasn't trying to be a hero or anything. I didn't want to let these blokes down, you know what I mean? Because I was the captain, and I thought I had to lead by example.
What impact did it have?
Oh, look, when we didn't know the full implications, every part of the story, but that no one plays braver than Gilly, and that was above and beyond what you'd normally expect. So if you kind of weren't committed to the cause before, which we all were, I mean, you go to another level after that. And look, again, me being young, I think back now and I think, how courageous that was. But the guys that were similar age to him, I can't imagine what it would have done to blokes like Jed, one of Gilly's best mates. That just would have kind of made sure that he was zoned in and ready to kill a few blues. And then you get to Billy and Larry and Billy going through his own stuff. It just sent a message through the team that, if we didn't believe we were coming home to win in front of our own fans, we certainly were after that, right?
Well, when it was told in the lead up about how courageous it was and what he was going through, my little bruised rib all of a sudden became very insignificant. I thought, oh, please have a look at yourself, Billy.
But I'm glad you dragged out both stories, Potsy, so we can compare.
Next time, don't make the spotlight that close together, please.
Sorry,
if we just finish. But I remember after the game finished, there's one of my greatest photos I've got. Gary and I cheering Gilly. I remember we picked him up, and mate, you're not a massively heavy man, but mate, you were as light as a feather. Whatever weight you had, you'd lost. And mate, we threw you up, and I went, there's nothing there. It obviously had a huge effect on his body, but you wouldn't have known his performance.
But the funny thing too was, a few of the boys said to me, one of the things that stands out to me, I'll get this right, when I got on the bus, because the boys didn't know whether I was playing or not, and when I got on the bus, and I seen all these smiling faces, and I thought, okay, this is good because we're gonna give it to these blokes, you know what I mean? So, as I said, wasn't trying to be a hero or anything, but it was funny, and Jed said to me after the game, little cut in your leg, eh?
Well, I think when we saw him get on the bus, we just knew. It was just it was almost like the sign off of what was going to happen, and there was just no way we were going to allow you to do what you did and not be able to produce a result that we wanted.
Listening to you all talking about that series, and you all went on to play many more series and games after that, did you ever go into another series with the same confidence and belief as that series? Because Origin is so close. It's sometimes the bounce of a ball, but listening to you all talk, it just seemed like we were going to win. Did you ever have that feeling again playing Origin?
Well, I probably played more Origins than the other guys. Well, I know I did after that. And like to have that as your first Origin experience, it's like winning the tab first time you go, right?
How easy is this?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But it showed me what it meant to Queensland immediately. That was a really difficult period for the game, and the game needed Queensland to win that Origin series. And I mightn't have been cognizant of that as an 18-year-old, but I certainly felt it. And so, my commitment to that jersey just got taken to a whole new level. It was formed in that year, and so I was rusted on by the end of that series. But for me personally, every series is different because you end up with a different group of players in a different situation, often with a different coach. But that thing, when I look back off the back of all the series I was lucky enough to be part of, and it is so unique and so special. And the boys have already touched on it. I don't think I've got a connection to a lot of players that I played Origin with, but I have got nowhere near the strength of connection to any of the teams I played with like I do with this side. We can see each other after, doesn't matter how long, step into the room, and it's like we're back at the Travelodge in 1995.
Sixth floor.
Yep.
The best way to sum up this side, it was a champion team. It wasn't made up of a team of champions, and it wasn't until the following year we lost that series 3-0, and a lot of those champions came back in. As I got further from that moment of 95, as I drifted away from it in time, I'll be able to reflect back and I realised, as I said, it was the people's team, and we did something which is written in folklore, and it's just got bigger and bigger. And as Ike just said, you look back on it and you're so proud to be a part of it. I was then. I knew it was special, but as I've got further away, you just realise the enormity. And it's really, to me, it's great to look back and see that the Queensland public truly did see it as a watershed moment for their team.
and still value it today.
Still
Yeah,
very-
That's why they drive up next to Gilly, wind the window down.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
95, how good?
There's
Best-
only a scratch.
yeah, best ever, and they drive off. But yeah, I'm kind of blown away about how many people. Well, you mentioned him before, right? So we were at a function a couple of years ago, and one of asking a few blokes, ex-captains of Queensland, what was their favourite series, and even Darren Lockyer said 95. So I mean, coming from him. You know, I was taken aback a bit by that, and I thought, oh shit, that's kind of humbling and very, very nice of him to say. But obviously, I was going to say 95 as well, but he got him before me.
Just this very difficult question. I know it's like asking who's your favourite child, but is there a moment, a memory, a minute, whatever it may be, from that 95 series that either encapsulates what it's about or stands out in your mind the most? I know that's...
I'll go first. Mine is the Brett Dallas try.
Yeah,
Melbourne.
That's well, you win the series. We could have almost lost that game except for a forward pass that was ruled against New South Wales. And then so it sort of starts to dawn on everybody. Fatty gets closer to the sideline, ready to enjoy the victory. And then Brett Dallas, who ends up becoming a great mate of mine, I play with him at the Bears. He makes that break and he barely speaks, right? He's a really quiet guy. So to have that moment, to turn around and react the way he did to John Hopewadi, who was chasing him, to watch it back afterwards and hear the commentary from Gary Belcher about sticking the boot in, see the footage of Fatty with Wally Lewis celebrating on the sideline. Like that was the moment that we did the unthinkable. Yeah.
Hard to beat that. I think we've already touched on, to me, was the celebration in Game 3 here, and which crystallised to me that this was the people's team. The fact that 30,000 didn't leave. It's a school night. Thursday, they've got to go to work. They weren't leaving. As long as we stayed, if we had sat there and stayed till the sun up, they probably would as well. And you realised, as Ikey's already alluded to, that the buy-in from the Queensland public was so strong because they took the roller coaster ride with us from ground zero moment when they picked the first team, and people have gone, who are these blokes? Only one had played for Australia, to where we clean sweep for the first time in 4 years. So for the first time, only the fourth side history to have clean swept a team. That made it even more special. So, yeah, celebrating with them that moment, at the same time I ever got a chance to do it, was fantastic.
I got heaps, but probably the amount of times I've seen, Brett Dallas, Matty Singh, Robbie O'Davis taking New South Wales like out in the corner. I don't know how many times they did it over the series, but they saved our ass that many times, and I've watched it a couple of times in those positions of the field, and there's 6 Queensland jerseys in the picture, 2 New South Wales jerseys, or 1 sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it's about not letting your mates down. That's I'm going to be there just in case I'm needed. I don't want to let my mates down. That type of thing. I as I said, and Benny alluded to before about the mateships and the stuff. Like, you can't fake it. You know what I mean? Because everyone just loves each other to death. And if anyone out of that team rings me and says, I need a hand with something and it might be illegal, I'm going to be there. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's G'ing up, but love them so much. And as we said, we don't get that chance to see each other a great deal, but a lot of us live in Brisbane. He's up the sunny coast. But, yeah, it's just something, as I said, it's hard to put into words for us, really, to be honest. Yeah.
Mate, those 3 players you just mentioned, I always say, when you think about it, they were amazing 3 players. All went on and played multiple games for Queensland, played for Australia. But in that first series, they'd played a combined number of games before game 1 of 0.
Yeah.
And they stood up against this New South Wales team that had players that were so much more seasoned. Yep. But those 3 young blokes, as you said, continually tore down their bigger opposition, pushed them over the side. Unbelievable.
The significance of the performances of these 3 guys, I think is best exemplified by the fact you've got two of the hardest guys ever to play in the forward pack for Queensland giving a rap to some outside backs. Very rarely happens. They must have gone good.
We'll just
Fair
keep
point.
we'll just keep this amongst ourselves.
This won't go outside the room.
Well, gentlemen, here we are 30 years on, reminiscing about a great series. They'll be doing it in another 30, another 60 and another 90. You should be proud of not only your achievements in your career, but also that 1995 series. We thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Botsy.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.